My wife tried to blackmail me into a generous divorce settlement, threatening to leak fake photos. I handed the photos and her blackmail texts to the DA. She didn't get alimony. She got 3 years for extortion. All right, Reddit, buckle up because this one's wild. My divorce attorney actually told me I should post this as a warning to anyone going through a messy split. This happened between late 2023 and early 2024, and it ended with my ex-wife in an orange jumpsuit instead of spending my retirement fund. Here's how it all went down. I'm 34, been working as an operations manager at a logistics company in Arizona for the past 6 years. Decent pay, good benefits, owned my house outright thanks to my grandpa leaving me some money when he passed. Got a 2019 F-150 that I actually take care of, a workshop in my garage, and a life that I built from scratch without anyone's help. The house was my pride and joy. 3-bedroom ranch style in a quiet neighborhood just outside Scottsdale. 1,800 square feet with a 2-car garage that I converted half of into my workshop. Bought it as a foreclosure in 2017 for $180,000. Spent 2 years fixing it up myself. New roof, updated electrical, refinished the hardwood floors that were hiding under nasty carpet, replaced all the windows with energy-efficient double-pane ones, updated the HVAC system because Arizona summers are brutal, and the old unit was from 1998. Put in new kitchen cabinets and granite countertops. Landscaped the front and backyard with desert plants that don't need much water. By the time I was done, the place was worth $340,000 easy. Every weekend for 2 years was spent on that house. Learned how to tile from YouTube videos, figured out electrical work from my neighbor who used to be an electrician, taught myself basic plumbing because paying someone $200 to fix a leaky faucet seemed insane. Paid off the mortgage in 2021 using that inheritance plus savings I'd been stockpiling since my first real job at 22. My grandpa left me $85,000 when he passed in 2020. He was a machinist his whole life, never made a ton of money, but he saved every penny and lived below his means. When he died, he split his savings between me and my 2 siblings. That money went straight to paying off the house. Still had about $15,000 left over that I kept in a separate account for emergencies. The workshop setup was something I'd been planning since I bought the place. Insulated the garage walls, ran dedicated 220-volt power for bigger tools, installed pegboard and shelving for organization. Built a workbench from reclaimed wood I got from a demolition site. Collected tools over the years. Table saw, miter saw, drill press, air compressor, full socket set, torque wrenches, you name it. Some new, most used from estate sales and pawn shops. That workshop was my sanctuary. I met my now ex-wife Jessica at a company mixer in 2019. She worked in HR at a different company, seemed smart and put together. Dark hair, professional clothes, talked about her career goals, and seemed ambitious in a good way. We started chatting about how corporate events were always awkward, and she made me laugh with her observations about the forced networking happening around us. She seemed different from other women I dated, had her own apartment, her own car, paid her own bills, talked about her 401k and her career trajectory, made it seem like she had her life together and wasn't looking for someone to take care of her. That was attractive to me because I dated too many women who saw me as a walking wallet once they found out I owned a house outright. We dated for about a year before I proposed. During that year, everything seemed solid. She had her own place but would stay over at mine most weekends. Liked that I cooked, appreciated that I fixed things around her apartment when stuff broke, seemed impressed that I could build furniture and repair appliances. Her friends would joke about how she landed a keeper, and she'd agree, saying she finally found an adult man who had his life together. The proposal happened in September 2020 at this park we'd gone to on our first real date. Nothing fancy, just the two of us. Sunset, simple moment. She cried happy tears, called her parents immediately, posted photos all over social media. That should have been my first clue about the social media thing, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags during our engagement, but you know how it goes when you're convinced you found the one. The subtle complaints started almost immediately after the ring went on her finger. Comments about how my house was nice but small, when her Pinterest boards showed these massive estates. Suggestions that we should upgrade my truck to something more refined, like a luxury SUV. Hints that her friends were all planning these elaborate destination bachelorette parties, and she didn't want to seem cheap in comparison. The red flags were subtle at first. She'd make comments about my friends being beneath us, because they worked trade jobs instead of corporate. My buddy Kevin runs his own electrical business and makes probably triple what I do, But because he wears Carhartt pants and drives a work van, he wasn't sophisticated enough for her vision of our social circle. Started suggesting I sell the house and upgrade to something in a gated community because we need to network with the right people. One time, my friend brought over some guys to help me install new garage doors. These were friends from my gym, good dudes, hard workers. Jessica came home while we were finishing up, and after they left, she said, "I don't think we should have those types of people at our house." When I asked what she meant, she backtracked, but the message was clear. Blue-collar workers weren't good enough for her image. Would get annoyed when I spent weekends in my workshop instead of going to brunches with her work friends who honestly just talked about other people behind their backs. These brunches were a regular thing. Every Sunday, $50 to $80 per person for eggs and fruit that I could have made at home for $10. Her friends would sit around drinking overpriced mimosas and gossiping about coworkers, talking about who bought what car, who went on what vacation, who got what promotion. Surface-level conversations about surface-level things. We got married in October 2020, small ceremony because of restrictions at the time, which honestly I preferred anyway. Her family went all out despite the limitations. $30,000 wedding at this resort outside Scottsdale. I offered to pay half, but her dad insisted on covering it. Should have realized she expected that kind of spending to continue. The venue was this boutique resort with mountain views, limited to 50 guests because of gathering restrictions. Jessica was stressed about the limitations at first, until she realized that meant she could be more selective about who came, essentially turning it into this exclusive event that she could post about. The photos from that wedding were professional grade. She hired a photographer for $3,500 and made sure every angle was perfect. Looking back, the whole day felt more like a photo shoot than a wedding. Her dad, Ron, was this retired executive who'd done well for himself. Nice guy, actually, but completely blind to his daughter's flaws. He'd give her anything she wanted growing up, and that continued into adulthood. During our engagement, he paid for her car when hers broke down. Just bought her a brand new Honda Accord outright. He covered her wedding dress that cost $4,200. Paid for the rehearsal dinner. I think he thought he was being generous. But really, he was just enabling her expectation that money appeared whenever she wanted it. First year of marriage was fine. Nothing spectacular, but we got along all right. She had her routines, I had mine. She'd do yoga and meet friends for lunch while I worked on projects around the house. We'd have dinner together most nights, watch shows, do the normal married couple thing. She was still working her HR job, contributing to household expenses, seemed content. The house was in my name only since I'd bought it before marriage, but she moved in and we split utilities and groceries. Made sense. She kept her car payment and insurance, I kept my truck payment and insurance. Joint account for household stuff, separate accounts for personal spending. Clean and simple. Year 2 is when things started getting weird. She became obsessed with Instagram. Not just scrolling, but this whole lifestyle influencer thing. Started buying expensive clothes for photos, getting her hair done twice a week, going to trendy restaurants just for pictures. Our credit card bills went from $1,200 a month to almost $4,000. The Instagram thing started innocently enough in early 2022. She'd post pictures of our house, her outfits, food we'd make, normal stuff. Got a few hundred followers pretty quick. Mostly her friends, co-workers, family. Then she discovered these lifestyle influencers with hundreds of thousands of followers who seemed to just live these perfect lives full of brunches and boutique shopping and fancy trips. That's when she changed. Started studying these accounts like they were textbooks. Would take notes on what they posted, when they posted, how they captioned things, what brands they tagged. Created this whole strategy around building her platform. Said she was going to become one of these influencers, that it was the future, that traditional jobs were outdated. Then it evolved into this full-time hobby where she was staging everything. She'd make me take 50 photos of her in the same outfit from different angles, rearrange our living room furniture for better lighting, buy decorative items we didn't need just as props. Created this fake perfect life online that didn't match our actual life at all. I remember the first time she asked me to take photos for her. We were going to grab lunch on a Saturday, and she asked me to snap a quick picture of her outfit. Sure, fine. Took one photo. She looked at it and said, "No, we need more. Different angles." Ended up spending 30 minutes in our living room taking photos of her standing in various poses. Then she spent another hour editing them on her phone before posting one. That became the routine. Every outfit required a photo shoot. Every meal required staging. She bought this ring light setup with a tripod for $400. Got a special camera that was supposedly better for Instagram. Cost $800. Subscribed to editing apps that were $30 a month. The costs started piling up before I even realized what was happening. Our living room became a studio. She'd moved the couch to get better natural light from the windows. Bought throw pillows that photographed better, even though our current pillows were fine. Got this white, fuzzy rug that looked good in photos, but was impossible to keep clean. Bought fake plants because real ones might wilt and ruin the aesthetic. Everything in our house became about how it looked in photos, not about how we actually lived in it. Her follower count became this weird measuring stick for her self-worth. She'd get genuinely upset if a post didn't hit 1,000 likes. Started comparing herself to these influencers with hundreds of thousands of followers, saying she needed better content, better backdrops, better everything. That's when the spending spiraled. She'd obsess over the analytics, knew exactly what time of day got the most engagement, which hashtags worked better, which type of photos performed well, had spreadsheets tracking her follower growth, her engagement rates, her reach. It was like watching someone develop a gambling addiction, except instead of money, she was chasing likes and comments. The worst part was the comments from other women. They'd write things like goals and your life is perfect, and I want to be you. And she'd eat it up. Didn't matter that it was all fake. Didn't matter that she'd spent 3 hours setting up a photo of coffee and a book that she wasn't even going to read. The validation from strangers was like a drug. Clothes became a monthly expense that rivaled our mortgage when we had one. She'd buy outfits specifically for Instagram photos, wear them once, then never wear them again because she couldn't repeat outfits online. Started shopping at these boutiques that charged $200 for a basic shirt. Justified it by saying she needed to look the part if she was going to grow her following. She'd come home with bags from Nordstrom, Anthropologie, some local boutiques that catered to the influencer crowd. Each shopping trip was $500 to $800. When I'd ask about it, she'd say they were investments in her brand. Her brand being what exactly? She wasn't selling anything, wasn't promoting products, wasn't making money, just posting photos and accumulating debt. The hair appointments went from monthly to twice a week. She found this salon that specialized in Instagram-worthy styles, balayage, extensions, whatever the latest trend was. Each appointment was $150 to $200 minimum. Her hair started looking less like real human hair and more like something off a mannequin. Perfect waves, perfect highlights, perfect everything. Cost us about $1,200 a month just for her to have camera-ready hair at all times. Restaurants became content opportunities, not meals. She'd research which places were most Instagrammable in our area. We'd go to these trendy spots where the food was mediocre, but it photographed well. She'd order dishes based on how they looked, not how they tasted. Would make me wait to eat while she took photos from 12 different angles. Other diners would stare at us like we were crazy. One time we went to this place that was known for their colorful smoothie bowls. $18 for a bowl of blended fruit with some granola. Jessica ordered 3 different ones so she could photograph them all, took probably 200 photos, then we left. Didn't eat a single bite. Just paid $54 for photo props and walked out. When I said that was wasteful, she told me I didn't understand marketing. She started traveling to Instagram-worthy locations too. Day trips to Sedona for photos with the red rocks. Weekend trip to California to photograph herself at some mural wall that all the influencers used. Wanted to go to Tulum for a week, because apparently the beaches there were perfect for content. Each trip was thousands of dollars for photos that would get a few hundred likes and be forgotten in a week. The Sedona trips became monthly. 2-hour drive each way, plus the cost of gas, food, sometimes a hotel if she wanted to catch sunrise photos. She'd pack multiple outfits, scout locations using other influencers' posts, plan the whole day around getting shots. I went with her a few times before I started making excuses to stay home. Watching her spend 6 hours posing with rocks while I held shopping bags wasn't my idea of a fun Saturday. Her follower count was growing, I'll give her that. She got up to about 8,000 followers by mid-2022, but none of it was translating to anything real. No brand partnerships, no sponsorships, no income. Just an audience of people watching her pretend to live a life she couldn't afford. The credit card debt started in spring 2022. We had one joint card that we'd always paid off every month. Suddenly, the balance started carrying over. $800 one month, $1,500 the next, then $3,000. I asked her about it, and she said she'd handle it, that she was budgeting better, that it was temporary. Except it wasn't temporary. It kept growing. I tried talking to her about the spending, showed her spreadsheets, our budget, pointed out that we were now carrying credit card debt for the first time in our marriage. She'd nod and agree. Then 2 days later, there'd be another package from Nordstrom, or a charge from some boutique I'd never heard of. I need to look the part if I'm going to grow my platform, she'd say. This is an investment in our future. Except there was no future in it. She wasn't making money from this. No sponsorships, no partnerships, nothing. Just spending thousands to impress people she'd never met. By summer 2023, I was done. We were $23,000 in credit card debt. She'd stopped contributing to household expenses because she needed to focus on her brand, and I was basically funding her fantasy life while working 50-hour weeks and doing all the home maintenance myself. I sat her down in July and said we needed to either fix this or end it. Marriage counseling, financial planning, something. She looked at me like I'd just insulted her entire existence. "You're trying to control me," she said. "You can't handle that I'm building something for myself." Building what? A debt mountain? But fine. I gave it one more shot. Suggested we separate our finances. She could have her own account for her influencer stuff, but household expenses got split 50-50. Seemed reasonable. She agreed for about 2 weeks, then went right back to using the joint account for everything because her account didn't have enough in it. Yeah, no kidding. September 2023, I made the call. Told her I wanted a divorce. She didn't even seem surprised, just annoyed. Like I was inconveniencing her. "Fine," she said. "But I'm not leaving with nothing. I gave up 3 years of my life for this marriage." Gave up 3 years? She lived rent-free in a house I owned, drove a car I paid for, and spent money like she was a trust fund kid. But whatever. I figured we'd split whatever was in our joint accounts, she'd take her car that was in her name anyway, and we'd be done. I filed in October. Hired a lawyer named Patricia, who came highly recommended. She was this no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd been handling divorces for 25 years. First meeting, she asked for our financial documents and just shook her head as she went through everything. "Your wife spent $47,000 in the last year on non-essentials," Patricia said, highlighter in hand. "Did you approve any of this?" I told her to stop about a dozen times, I said. "Good. Keep any texts or emails where you discuss the spending. We'll need them." Patricia walked me through Arizona's community property laws. Basically, anything acquired during the marriage gets split 50-50 unless we could prove separate property. The house was mine before marriage. Separate property. My truck, my tools, my workshop equipment, all mine from before or bought with inheritance money that I'd kept in a separate account. Smart move past me. The debts, though, those were community property. So technically, I'd be on the hook for half the credit card debt, even though it was all her spending. Patricia said we could argue for her to take more based on who incurred it, but it would be a fight. Jessica hired this lawyer named David, who had a reputation for being aggressive. First settlement offer came in November. She wanted half the value of the house, half my retirement account, half everything in our joint savings, alimony for 5 years, and she wanted me to take all the credit card debt because I made more money and could handle it better. I literally laughed when Patricia read it to me over the phone. "Tell her to get realistic," I said. "Already did. Her lawyer knows this is garbage. They're just starting high." So we countered. I offered her half of the joint savings, which was about $8,000, half the credit card debt split proportionally to who spent it, which worked out to about $19,000 for her and $4,000 for me, and her car that was paid off. No house, no retirement, no alimony. We were married 3 years, and she never even worked full-time. Arizona isn't an automatic alimony state anyway. Her lawyer came back even more aggressive. Now she wanted $150,000 from the house equity, even though she had no claim to it, all of my retirement, and 3 years of alimony at $2,500 a month. This is where things get interesting. December 2023, about a week before Christmas, I get a text from Jessica. We'd been communicating only through lawyers, so getting a direct text was weird. It said, "We need to talk. Meet me at the Starbucks on Camelback tomorrow at 2. I screenshotted it and sent it to Patricia. She said, "Don't go. Anything she has to say can go through lawyers." But curiosity got me. I went. Jessica showed up in this designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill, carrying a folder. She sat down across from me and slid the folder over without even saying hello. "Open it," she said. Inside were printed photos, about 15 of them, and they were not good. The photos showed me apparently in compromising situations with women I'd never seen before. One had me supposedly at a hotel with someone, another at a bar with my arm around someone, another that looked like I was leaving some house at night with a woman. They were clearly doctored. Anyone with eyes could tell, but they were done well enough that someone scrolling quickly might believe them. "What the hell is this?" I asked. "Insurance," Jessica said, leaning back with this smug look. "See, David thinks we can do better than your lowball offer. And I agree. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to agree to my terms. $150,000 for the house, all your retirement, and $3,000 a month in alimony for 5 years. Or these photos end up on your company's HR email, your family's Facebook feeds, and maybe even some local news sites I've been cultivating relationships with. I just stared at her. This woman I'd been married to, who I'd supported for 3 years, was sitting here trying to blackmail me with obvious fake photos. These aren't real, I said. Doesn't matter, she said. By the time you prove they're fake, the damage is done. Your boss sees them. Your parents see them. Your church group sees them. People remember the accusation, not the retraction. So yeah, they'll work just fine. She stood up, grabbed her purse. You have until Friday to agree. After that, I start making calls. Oh, and don't bother telling Patricia. This is just between us. A little wife-to-husband advice about how messy this could get. Then she left. I sat there for probably 10 minutes staring at these photos. Part of me was impressed at the audacity. Most of me was just done. I took photos of every single picture with my phone. Then I took the folder and left. Called Patricia from my truck. Told her everything. Read her Jessica's text word for word. Told her about the meeting, the photos, the threats. Bring everything to my office right now, Patricia said. Don't delete anything. Don't respond to her. Just come here. I drove straight there. Patricia spent an hour going through the photos, taking notes, recording everything I said about the meeting. Then she made a call. I have a colleague who specializes in criminal law, she said. What your wife just did isn't just unethical. It's illegal. Extortion is a felony in Arizona. That hadn't even occurred to me. I was so focused on the divorce aspect that I didn't think about the criminal side. Patricia's colleague, a guy named Richard, came to her office that evening. He looked at everything and confirmed it. Jessica had committed extortion, threatening to release damaging information unless I paid her money. Textbook definition. The question is whether you want to pursue it, Richard said. We can handle this civilly through the divorce, or we can refer this to the DA's office and let them decide if they want to prosecute. What happens if the DA gets involved? I asked. If they take the case and she's convicted, she's looking at anywhere from probation to several years in prison, depending on her record and the judge. But it also means your divorce gets messier because now there's a criminal case attached. I thought about it. Really thought about it. This woman had spent 3 years taking advantage of me financially. Then when that wasn't enough, decided to try and extort me with fake evidence. She threatened to ruin my reputation, my career, my relationship with my family. Contact the DA, I said. Richard nodded. I'll need you to write out everything that happened in detail. Every text, every word she said, timeline of events. The more detailed, the better. I spent the next 3 days writing a 10-page statement. Every conversation about money, every fight about her spending, the divorce filing, the settlement offers, the text asking to meet, every single word she said at that Starbucks, the threats, everything. Patricia had a forensic analyst examine the photos. Took him about 4 hours to write a detailed report on how they were manipulated. Turns out Jessica had used some AI photo editing software to insert my face into stock photos and images she'd pulled from social media. The analyst could trace the digital fingerprints, show where images were spliced, point out the inconsistencies in lighting and proportions. Professional grade fake, but still very clearly fake. The analyst's report was something else. 12 pages of technical breakdown showing exactly how each photo was constructed. He identified the source images. One was from a stock photo site called Shutterstock. Another was from someone's Instagram that Jessica apparently screenshot. He showed where my face was cropped from my own social media photos and blended in using layers. Pointed out that the lighting on my face didn't match the lighting in the scenes, that the resolution was inconsistent, that there were artifacts around the edges where the blending wasn't perfect. Cost me $1,500 for that report, but it was worth every penny. Richard submitted everything to the DA's office the first week of January 2024. I figured it would take months to hear anything. Government moves slow, right? Took 2 weeks. Got a call from Richard on January 18th. DA's office is moving forward. They want to interview you next week. The interview was intense. 2 prosecutors, a detective, and a recording device. They went through my statement line by line, asked me to clarify details, wanted to know about Jessica's behavior patterns, our financial situation, everything. Took 3 hours. Then they told me they were filing charges. Extortion in the first degree. Felony charge. They said they had enough evidence between my testimony, the photos, the text messages, and the expert analysis. Jessica got served with criminal charges on January 30th. I wasn't there, but Patricia heard about it through the legal gossip chain. Apparently, she had a complete meltdown in her lawyer's office. Started screaming about how I was trying to ruin her life, how this was an overreaction, how those photos were just a negotiation tactic. Her lawyer David dropped her immediately. Conflict of interest. He couldn't defend her in a criminal case while also representing her in the divorce. She had to find a criminal defense attorney, and from what I heard, she burned through 3 of them before finding one willing to take her case. The divorce proceedings got put on hold while the criminal case moved forward. Patricia said that was standard. The criminal case takes precedence. Jessica tried to reach out to me directly multiple times. Texts, calls, even showed up at my house once. I documented everything and forwarded it all to Richard. Each contact was potentially another charge. Witness intimidation. Her texts were unhinged, started with apologies. I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. I was just scared about the divorce. Please drop the charges. When I didn't respond, they turned angry. You're ruining my life over nothing. Those photos weren't even that serious. You're being vindictive. Then desperate. Please, I can't go to prison. I'll agree to whatever you want in the divorce, just make this go away. I didn't respond to any of them. Richard said silence was the best policy. The preliminary hearing was in March. I had to testify. Sat on the stand and went through everything again. Jessica's new lawyer tried to make it seem like this was just a desperate woman trying to get a fair settlement, that I was overreacting, that criminal charges were excessive for what was essentially a civil dispute. The prosecutor brought out the photos, had the forensic analyst testify, showed the text messages, played the recording I'd made on my phone of our Starbucks conversation. Yeah, Arizona is a one-party consent state, so that was legal. Jessica's lawyer tried to argue that the photos were just a bluff and that I was never actually in danger of her releasing them. The prosecutor shut that down quick. The defendant threatened to distribute fabricated images designed to damage the plaintiff's reputation unless he paid her $150,000 and agreed to ongoing monthly payments of $3,000. Whether she would have followed through is irrelevant. The threat itself constitutes extortion under Arizona law. The judge agreed. Set a trial date for June. Between March and June, Jessica's lawyer tried everything to get a plea deal, offered to plead guilty to a misdemeanor, pay restitution, agree to probation. The DA wasn't having it. They wanted to make an example. Apparently, there'd been an uptick in people using fake evidence in divorce proceedings, and they wanted to send a message. The prosecutor told me they were seeing more cases like mine. People using AI tools to create fake images, fabricating text messages, doctoring documents. Said the technology had gotten good enough that regular people could create convincing fakes, and it was becoming a serious problem in family court cases. My case was going to set a precedent. Jessica's lawyer kept lowering the plea offers. Started at misdemeanor extortion with probation, then offered 90 days in county jail plus restitution, then 6 months. The DA rejected every single one. They wanted a felony conviction, and they wanted prison time. I asked Richard why they were being so aggressive. He explained that the DA's office had been getting pressure from family court judges about false evidence. Judges were seeing more cases where people would bring in questionable photos, texts, emails. Some of it was catching on social media, where people would brag about playing the game in divorce court. The DA wanted to send a clear message that fabricating evidence and extorting people would be prosecuted to the fullest extent. The trial lasted 3 days in early June. Day 1 was jury selection and opening statements. The prosecutor laid out the case clearly, showed the timeline, explained what extortion was under Arizona law, told the jury what evidence they'd see. Jessica's lawyer tried to frame it as a misunderstanding, a woman who made a mistake in a stressful situation. Day 2 was the bulk of the evidence. I testified for 5 hours total. The prosecutor walked me through everything. Our marriage, the spending, the divorce filing, the settlement negotiations. Then we got to the Starbucks meeting. I described every detail I could remember. What she wore, how she looked, what she said, her exact words about the photos. Her lawyer cross-examined me for 2 hours. Tried to make it seem like I was exaggerating, that maybe I misunderstood her intentions, that perhaps the meeting was just her venting frustration. Didn't work. I had the recording of our conversation. When the prosecutor played that in court, you could see the jury's faces change. Hearing Jessica's actual voice making those threats. That coldness when she said the damage would be done before I could prove the photos were fake. That sealed it. They brought in my family next. My mom testified about how Jessica had specifically threatened to send the photos to her, how that would have devastated her, damaged her relationship with me, caused her immense emotional distress. My dad talked about our church community and how those photos getting out would have affected our families standing there. Small community. Everyone knows everyone. That kind of scandal doesn't just disappear. My boss testified about company policy, said if HR received credible allegations of misconduct, they're required to investigate. I would have been put on administrative leave immediately, probably for weeks while they looked into it. Even if the investigation cleared me, the rumor mill at work would have destroyed my reputation. People don't forget that stuff. He brought the employee handbook, showed the jury the exact policies that would have been triggered. The forensic analyst's testimony was devastating for Jessica's case. Dude brought a whole presentation, had blown-up versions of the photos on boards, showed the jury exactly where each one was manipulated, pointed out inconsistencies in lighting, shadows that didn't match, resolution differences between my face and the background, traced the source images back to stock photo websites and social media accounts that weren't mine. He explained how the AI software worked, how someone could upload a photo of a face and blend it into another image, showed examples of the artifacts that get left behind when you do that, then showed those exact same artifacts in Jessica's photos. It was like watching a magic trick explained. Once you knew what to look for, the fakes were obvious. Jessica's defense lawyer tried to challenge the analysis, brought in their own expert. Their guy was less impressive. Admitted the photos showed signs of manipulation, but tried to argue that didn't necessarily mean Jessica made them, that maybe someone else created them and sent them to her. The prosecutor destroyed that theory on redirect by showing the metadata on the files. They were created on Jessica's laptop 3 days before our Starbucks meeting. The prosecution brought up her Instagram, her spending habits, showed that this wasn't about security. It was about maintaining a lifestyle she couldn't afford. They pulled up some of her Instagram posts, showed them to the jury. These carefully curated images of designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxury items, then showed the credit card bills proving she couldn't actually afford any of it. The text messages between her and her friends were probably the most damaging evidence. The prosecution had gone through her phone records after getting a warrant, found conversations where she discussed her plan. Those texts were brutal. Her friend Amanda had asked how the divorce was going, and Jessica responded, "Not great, but I'm working on a backup plan. Got some photos that'll make him think twice about lowballing me. If he doesn't play ball, everyone he knows sees them. He'll cave." Amanda wrote back, "Are they real?" Jessica, "Real enough. That's all that matters." Another text to a different friend named Brittany, "Fake it till you make it, right? These photos look real enough to cause problems. That's all that matters." Brittany, "Girl, be careful. That sounds risky." Jessica, "Please. He'll pay up rather than have his reputation destroyed. I know him. He'll fold." Reading those texts in court, watching the jury's faces as they heard Jessica talk about me like I was some mark in a con game, that was surreal. This was someone I'd been married to, someone I'd loved, and she was casually discussing destroying my life like it was a business strategy. Day 3 was closing arguments. The prosecutor hammered home that this wasn't a desperate woman making a split-second bad decision. This was calculated, premeditated extortion. The photos took time to create. She had to find the source images, use software to blend them, print them out, organize them in a folder. Then she planned the meeting, sent the text, showed up with her evidence and her demands. "This wasn't a cry for help," the prosecutor said. "This was a crime, a felony, and the defendant knew exactly what she was doing." Jessica's lawyer did his best in closing, painted her as a woman who'd lost her way, who was scared about her future, who made a terrible choice but didn't deserve to have her life ruined. Argued that probation and restitution would be sufficient punishment, that prison was excessive. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, came back with a guilty verdict on all counts. Sentencing was 4 weeks later. Jessica's lawyer begged for probation, community service, anything but prison. Talked about how she had no prior record, how she was remorseful, how prison would destroy her life. The judge wasn't swayed, said that extortion was a serious crime, that fabricating evidence showed premeditation and malice, and that the potential damage to my life was significant. Sentenced her to 3 years in state prison, 3 years probation after release, and ordered her to pay $8,500 in restitution for my legal fees related to the criminal case. Jessica broke down crying. Her mom was in the courtroom and started yelling at me, calling me evil, saying I was destroying their family. Bailiffs had to escort her out. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, nothing. Just done. The divorce finalized 2 months later. With the criminal conviction, her position in the settlement negotiations completely collapsed. She got nothing from the house, nothing from my retirement, no alimony. We split the joint savings equally. She took her credit card debt, I took mine. She got her car. That was it. Patricia said it was the cleanest divorce settlement she'd seen in a case that started that messy. Jessica's currently serving her sentence at Perryville. She'll be eligible for early release in about 18 months if she behaves. Paid off the last of the credit card debt in November. Took the $8,500 restitution payment and put it straight toward what she'd racked up. Still waiting on the rest in monthly installments from her prison wages. Should be paid off by 2035 at this rate. Sold her car in August. She'd left it in my driveway and stopped making insurance payments. Got $8,200 for it. Used that to replace my HVAC system that had been making weird noises for 6 months. Her Instagram went dark about 2 weeks after sentencing. Her follower count had dropped to 3,000 by the time the account vanished. Ron, her dad, reached out in September asking if I'd write a letter to the parole board. Told him no. He called me cold. I reminded him his daughter tried to extort me. He hung up. Got a letter from Jessica in October. Prison mail. She wanted me to put money on her commissary account because the food was terrible and she needed basic supplies. Wrote back with one word. No. Haven't heard from her since. The house is mine. Clear and simple. Updated the title and deed to remove any trace of her name. Changed the locks even though she never had keys after she moved out. Just felt right. Been dating Amy for 8 months now. Met her at a hardware store. We were both looking at the same drill set and started talking. She's a middle school science teacher, owns her own condo, drives a paid-off Subaru. Told her about Jessica on our second date. She asked 2 questions. Is it over? And, are you good now? Yes and yes. End of conversation. Amy comes over most weekends. Helps with projects, doesn't mind getting dirty. Last month we rebuilt the deck. Month before that we installed new light fixtures. She's good with tools. The workshop's gotten more use in the past year than it did in the entire time I was married. Currently working on that C10. Amy helped me pull the engine last weekend. Thing weighs 600 pounds, and we had to rent an engine hoist, but we got it done. Transmission's next. The DA's office sent me a letter in August thanking me for my cooperation in the case. Said they've already used it as an example in 2 other extortion cases that came through. One of them resulted in a plea deal, the other went to trial and got a conviction. Apparently my case made people think twice about trying the same tactic. Jessica's mom sent me a Facebook message on Christmas. Long rambling thing about how I destroyed their family, how Jessica was a good person who made one mistake, how I should be ashamed. Blocked her and deleted it without responding. Not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. Ran into David, Jessica's old divorce lawyer, at a restaurant in January. He was with his family. I was with Amy. He nodded at me, I nodded back. That was it. Professional courtesy, nothing more. My credit score hit 780 last month. First time it's been that high since before I got married. Feels good seeing that number knowing I'm not tied to someone actively destroying it. The C10's coming along. Got the engine rebuilt and back in. New gaskets, new seals, bored out the cylinders and got new pistons. Runs like a dream now. Planning to have it road ready by summer. Amy wants to drive it to her parents' place in Flagstaff once it's done. Life's simple now. Work, projects, time with Amy, hanging with friends. No drama, no debt, no one threatening to ruin my reputation for money. Jessica gets out in 2026 if she makes parole. Don't think about it much. By then, I'll probably own that duplex, the C10 will be done, and I'll be even further removed from the 3 years I spent married to someone who saw me as a wallet with a workshop attached. She made her choices. Spent money she didn't have, threatened someone who wouldn't fold, and paid the price. I made mine too. Documented everything, called her bluff, and moved on. That's the whole story. No dramatic ending, no big revelation. Just a guy who didn't let someone shake him down and came out the other side better off. Best trade I ever made. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.